So by now, I'm sure that you saw that Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball had a debate with Cenk Uygur on the latest episode of Crystal Kyle and Friends, and I just watched it and I had to share my thoughts because, wow, I don't even know where to begin. That debate was honestly mind-boggling to me. And it's not that I'm surprised that Cenk Uygur was making points that were comically bad. It's the level of confidence with which he made said points that are comically bad that led me to think that either he is in straight up cognitive decline, that's how bad these arguments are, or he is saying what he thinks will bring over the MAGA viewers to TYT. Either way, it's just, after watching Cenk for so many years, it's difficult to accept that he genuinely and earnestly believes the things he's saying because they're that fucking stupid. So just to kind of steelman him from the beginning, his argument is that the way that individuals like Kyle, Crystal, myself, and others on the left are approaching MAGA and politics in general is too divisive, and it's not a winning strategy. So basically, the way that we go about it is we call everybody Nazis, and that's going to turn them off, whereas Cenk Uygur is trying to extend an olive branch to them to win them over. And he admits that you can't win over all of them, but trying to win over some of them is really important. That's, I think, the gist of his argument. Hopefully, I am characterizing his argument well. I'm sure if he saw this, he would accuse me of strawmanning him, but I'm trying to be as honest as I can at the portrayal of his argument. Now, that in and of itself is not unreasonable, but when you go to some of the specifics within his argument and the reasoning for how he comes to this conclusion, that's where everything kind of begins to fall apart. Now, putting aside the argument for a moment, I've just got to say, Cenk Uygur was such a prick during this entire thing to Kyle Kulinski and Crystal Ball. They were completely pleasant, started off cordial, and the first time Cenk Uygur opened his mouth, he was so condescending. He said, well, I'm trying to see if you guys live on the same planet as me, as if they're the ones who are suffering from delusions of grandeur, not him, which was wild because if you watch any other debates, if he goes on Piers Morgan, if he goes on PBD, he's very cordial, very kind, but he doesn't have this energy for the left. He won't talk to Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland at all. But for right-wingers, he's very kind to them. Left-wingers, he's like, well, I just want to see how fucking stupid you are. He didn't say that verbatim, but I'm just saying, like, that's the energy that he brought, and it was very off-putting. So I was trying to put aside that gripe that I had with him so I could interpret what he was saying in the most objective way imaginable. Nonetheless, I'm a human being, so my bias is going to trigger me. And him being a dick to them really was... that pissed me off, if I'm being honest. Having said that, though, let's get to some of the arguments. I have some notes here. Okay, so he says that with regard to the Iran war, so he is currently leading an anti-war coalition, according to him, to try to stop war with Iran. But if war with Iran does start, if Trump goes all in, right, we're talking full-scale invasion, he predicts that the MAGA base will turn on Donald Trump. Now, Crystal and Kyle presented him with evidence to the contrary, that polling already indicates that MAGA's on board, but he dismisses that because he sees people on Twitter saying that they would not support Donald Trump anymore if he did a war with Iran. I'm not sure why that's compelling evidence to him, because one anecdote or a couple of anecdotes that you see on Twitter is not indicative of a broader trend. He knows this. Nonetheless, that is his belief. He thinks that they will turn on MAGA based on what he's seen on Twitter. The problem is that whole argument is kind of self-defeating, because if MAGA was already anti-war, and if this anti-war coalition that he was building was actually fruitful, you would stop war from the get-go, which is important. Nonetheless, he says that if Trump goes to war with Iran, the base will turn on him, most of the base, not all of them, they will turn on him, and they will turn on Israel as well. That is a prediction that he made throughout the course of this debate, and I'm here to tell him that is not going to happen. These are people that are fundamentalist evangelicals. A lot of them, not all of them. Like, again, we're talking generalizations here. But when you are a person who was raised as an evangelical, you are brainwashed from a very young age to be a Zionist and support Israel. I grew up as a fundamentalist Christian. I know this firsthand. I knew from a kid, I didn't know what Israel was, but I knew I had to love it. Okay? They're not just going to turn on Israel for policy reasons. This is embedded in their Christian ideology. So he's just wrong there. And to say that MAGA will turn on Donald Trump, maybe that happens in 10 years as Republicans turned on Bush, but it's not going to happen when it matters. So I guess I don't know why he's giving them credit here when they don't deserve it, because their potential opposition to Trump in the future, if and when he chooses to invade Iran, isn't going to meaningfully change the situation right now. So what's the point? Furthermore, isn't reaching out to them right now the whole goal of him doing this? Him trying to stop the war from happening in the first place? So if they're not turning on him because he's considering war, but they will turn on him after he considers war, like, does it not matter at that point? Like, does the project of extending an olive branch to them kind of seem meaningless? It does to me, at least. As for the subject of him winning over MAGA, he says that, let me see my notes here. Okay, so he implied at one point, and I laughed out loud, that it's good that the Pentagon budget went up. Not because he supports this. To be clear, he doesn't like this. But it's good that it went up because they implied that they wouldn't raise the Pentagon budget. But since they did, now they look like hypocrites, and you could present this information to MAGA, and it's going to click for them. Except, brother, this is a cult. They don't care. Now, Krystal and Kyle showed Cenk what he said before Trump took office, and basically, his hypothesis was that the MAGA diehards would flip on Donald Trump in the event he decided to go full neocon warmonger, and he kind of uses the MAGA voters and the MAGA pundits like Steve Bannon, Joe Rogan interchangeably. But with regard to Joe Rogan and Steve Bannon, you know, he mentions how they are opposed to war with Iran, but as Krystal and Kyle pointed out, they already flipped back to being pro-war. I mean, with regard to Steve Bannon, he said that even though he's anti-war, and they have a quote from Steve Bannon in this interview that they presented to Cenk, he says that the MAGA base will follow Trump into a war with Iran. With regard to Tucker Carlson, sure, he's, criticizing people who want to do war, but he called Donald Trump and apologized and hasn't said that he didn't do that. So this is according to Donald Trump, but he already apologized. But Cenk still thinks that this is a win because his rationale is that, okay, let me see if I can get this right. He basically said that they had to be brought to heel by Donald Trump because they started rebelling in the first place, which kind of defeats his own argument, because if they're easily snapped back into line when they get out of line, then doesn't your entire theory of change fall apart? If we can't convince these people, perhaps they're different than the MAGA voters, but if they automatically just go along with Donald Trump the second they face pushback, then isn't this whole attempt to reach out to them kind of meaningless? I've said this, multiple times now. I've asked this question multiple times now, and I feel like it's a rhetorical question because we know the answer to that. There's another portion where Kyle Kulinski asked him if he thought that MAGA was fascist, and he wouldn't answer the question. He later implied that they were not fascist because they didn't vote for fascism. They voted for the economy and immigration. What policy specifically with regard to immigration did they vote for, Cenk? Kicking all of the immigrants out of the country, documented and undocumented. They had signs at the RNC that said mass deportation. That is fascism. If they are not voting for fascism, but they're voting for Donald Trump, whether or not they are personally fascist themselves, let's say a MAGA voter voted for the economy in spite of Trump's immigration policies. Wittingly or unwittingly, they are supporting fascism. Fundamentally, that is a fascist movement. So the fact that he's burying his head in the sand and pretending like they're not fascist is insane, because as Kyle brought up at one point, he had a debate with Anna about this. Now, towards the end, it started to get very heated between Kyle and Cenk, and Kyle basically said, Cenk, I'm doing your old strategy. This is what you used to do. You used to tear apart their spines and drink their spinal fluid. So what changed? And Cenk basically formulates what seems to me to be the Kamala Harris strategy of trying to court over Liz Cheney voters, right? He says, something to the effect of, well, I want to win, and this is what you have to do. And then when Kyle said that he was doing the Cenk strategy, Cenk was like, oh, you're so pure, Kyle. You're so pure. Congratulations. Because he didn't have anything else to say aside from just some indignant, condescending response This was crazy to me. Because Cenk, for being so wrong in such a quick amount of time, like Trump has not been president for 6 months at this point. Cenk has been disproven so thoroughly, but for him to not only claim that he is correct, but that everyone else is not living on the same planet if they don't agree with his characterization of the MAGA movement is fucking insane to me, which is why, again, I'm going to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this video, that he has to either be just lying in order to get MAGA viewers to come to his side. Maybe he's convinced himself that he's right. Or maybe he's just like straight up delusional himself. Either way, this was insane. And I don't really know what to say. If you go to his Twitter timeline, he's tweeting about how, see, look, the left wants to pretend that people like this don't exist. It's a MAGA person who would abandon Donald Trump if you went to war with Iran. Brother, that's one person. Anecdotes are not representative of the whole MAGA movement. It's just so weird that he's bending over backwards to, I guess, sanitize MAGA and sanewash MAGA when he isn't that kind to the left. Like, if you see what he says about the left, he's talked about how he's happy that the left hates him because it means he's doing something right. Like, it's wild. Like, he fucking hates the left. And my psychoanalysis here of him is that since he pissed off the left by shifting to the center and going more, conservative on issues like crime and whatnot, he realized that the left isn't really fucking with him anymore because we don't want that centrist milquetoast bullshit. We want actual unapologetic leftism. So maybe he thinks that avenue, like that, it's gone. So the only way that he can have an audience or have a base of support is to pander to more normie Republicans. Like, it's the media version of the Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton campaign strategy, which he has criticized ironically. I genuinely am befuddled by this man's logic here. And the fact that there's so much hubris here, not a shred of humility, with him being so fucking wrong is striking to me. Like, this is not the same person from 5 years ago, not even 2 years ago. I have to conclude that he's being purposefully disingenuous. Otherwise, then he's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry. And you could tell the contempt that he has in his voice the entire time for Krystal and Kyle. So I don't feel restrained myself. I'm not going to self-censor. Cenk is being a dickhead, and he's a dumbass dickhead at that. And this proved it right there. Because, if you watch that and you come away thinking that Cenk looks good, I genuinely question your judgment. So I don't know why he agreed to do this debate with Krystal and Kyle. It did not fucking go well for him at all. It was devastating, actually. But he did it. And I had to make a video on the weekend when I try to not think about politics because holy shit, my mind was genuinely fucking blown. I don't know what's happened to Cenk Uygur. I don't know what's happened to Anna Kasparian with her on her right-wing version of The View where you have this dude throwing a tampon at her, telling her she's getting emotional. I don't know why you are choosing to make bedfellows with these people who are demons, who have always shit on you and hated you. But, as long as they're not the left, then I guess everything is copacetic for them. Either way, wow, highly recommend you watch this interview for yourself. I will link to it down below. Support Krystal and Kyle. Great people. They're actually trying to do what Cenk should be doing and what he used to do, which is resist MAGA. So support them if you can.
Woke mob. Woke mob.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke test.
Woke ideology.
Woke Olympics.
Woke ideology.
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 Weaponized wokery.
Woke ideology.